figured today I'd just give you guys a little review of my 2003 Ford Ranger Edge. So this is actually the middle range engine version. It's got a 3-liter V6. The base has a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine, inline 4, and then the one above this is 4-liter V6. But from what I've heard, you actually don't get too many benefits. There's a bit more power, a bit more torque, but for the loss in fuel economy that you get, it's actually probably not worth it. So as for the fuel economy I've gotten, I've actually got average probably about 20 or so miles to the gallon, and that's combined city, highway. They're probably judging me so hard right now. So as for modifications, the previous owner put, I think it's a MagnaFlow muffler on it, and then all I've done is I just put a washable air filter in. As for reliability issues, only thing I've had to do was I changed out the coil packs. I had misfires on 4 of 6 cylinders, and it's not like they're on one cylinder bank or anything like that. It was on both sides. And the other thing that's happened is just the battery went out. Of course, it's an early thousands Ranger. It's a 2003, so you know, finish quality is not the best. It's all hard touch plastics everywhere, but it's actually not as bad as you might imagine, and it cleans up really nicely. So, but yeah, there's like these huge panel gaps over here. You can fit half your hand down in them. And there's just little tiny squeaks and rattles, and one issue that I keep having is the speaker bolts got stripped out, and I guess the person before me had changed them out several times, or taken them off at least, and those are stripped down pretty good, so the speakers jiggle around quite a bit. So yeah, it's been super great on fuel economy. It doesn't burn very much oil. Another really big niggle I have with this truck is actually just the paint job on it. I don't think it's ever had a respray, but it honestly looks like there's some areas in between some of the panel gaps that Ford has missed. It's just pretty pathetic, if I'm honest. Paint just chips off of it. I'll show you guys a few spots on it later, but it's honestly really pathetic. There's huge rock chips just everywhere all over this car. And it's not like I take it off-road or anything like that. It's just basically, if you look at this car, the paint just chips off and strips away. So that's a few issues I've had with the car. But as for the good, for what it is, just a 3-liter, really simple old V6, actually it's pretty decent power. It's 156 horsepower and 186 foot-pounds of torque. But that may not sound like a lot until you realize that the truck weighs, I think it's like 3,100 pounds, maybe 3,200. So I'll show you guys what that kind of looks like a little bit here. But yeah, as for things that I like about it, the exhaust actually sounds really good. You get a couple little burbles and such when you let off the gas at about like 3,000, 3,500 RPMs. Now this truck surprisingly actually handles relatively like a car, and that may sound like a dumb thing to say, and you may think, oh, why would you want that? It's a truck, like it's supposed to be nice and soft and plush. And the thing is, it's actually very soft and very plush. And honestly, it's pretty cool because you're going through turns and there's quite a bit of body roll, but at the same time, that's kind of what helps it grip. So with softer suspension, the tire's able to maintain better contact with the ground, equally more grip, and they're not sticky tires at all. It's just Goodyear Wrangler radials. They're sort of off-road-ish tires, but it's honestly more just something to put on your car just because it's the cheapest thing out there. So a couple other things that I really like about this truck is, honestly, everything just feels like super wide open, tons of space, tons of glass. And just some little funny things about the car, like it actually doesn't have ABS. And I noticed this because, one second. Yeah, I noticed this because one time I was on roads that were like sort of like this, just slightly damp. And there's a couple turkeys out in the middle of the road, and I had to slam on the brakes super hard. But the thing is, it locked up all 4 wheels super easy, and it didn't do anything about it. No ABS lights or anything came on. It's just locked them up. So yeah, also this truck doesn't have traction control. It's not really that big of an issue, honestly. If you're just driving around daily, it's just, you'll never notice it, honestly. There's been a couple instances when it was again just like little wet, damp roads like this, and I tried to put the power down and it was just off the line, and it spun the tires really easily. And this may not be something that you would typically hear in just a little truck review like this, but the handling is actually surprisingly neutral. At low speeds, the front end does tend to plow a little bit, but if you think about it, there's not much weight over the back end. Like, the only thing that's heavy back there is gas if it's in the tank. I've actually had some little four-wheel slides on back roads like this before, just to and it's funny because this truck is rear-wheel drive. Like, it handles like you would kind of expect a four-wheel drive Audi with Quattro or something like that, where the front end kind of tends to plow on a little bit, but it does have grip. Other little just tiny silly things the truck does. A lot of times it'll upshift when you're going uphill for no obvious reason. So say you're in just like fourth gear cruising along, all of a sudden it'll just upshift into fifth gear overdrive. And you kind of sit there like, what, did you seriously just do that? So here, I'll give you an example. Fifth gear overdrive, if you just tap the brakes, it automatically downshifts for you. So the foot didn't leave the gas or anything like that. But it is just a nice little thing if you're trying to overtake and you do want to stay on the power. And just driving around town, I pretty much try and keep it about 45 miles an hour. That tends to be the sweet spot. That's just right after it shifts into fifth gear overdrive and you get like 20, 25 miles to the gallon at that point. I feel like they're judging me so hard right now. Nope, just texting and driving. Another little kind of funny thing about the truck. Of course it's a truck, so the suspension's kind of soft. And it's funny because the shock absorbers are actually pretty much blown in the front. In the back, they're pretty solid, but I've never been in a car that has both such sloppy ride characteristics, like it's just big old jelly car, but at the same time, like you hit a bump and it feels like you've just been like smacked in the back of the head with a shovel. Honestly, I wish I was joking about that, but driving through downtown Atlanta, you're just sitting there doing this the whole time. It's just jiggling back and forth, but at the same time, it feels like you're just constantly being hit. And there's been instances actually where there's been times that I've just been driving along and I thought I'd been hit, but nope, as it turns out, it was just a little bump in the road or something like that. So yeah, guys, I don't know if you can see, it's just little dumb stuff like that. I honestly don't even know how stuff like that happens. It's just weird. I have been hit plenty of times. There's dents a few places in the doors, and then look, just stuff like this, like fender arch, like how does that even happen? I'll tell you guys what's funny is I actually went and plasti dipped this a while ago just to get it to go back to black, and worked pretty good, but it's starting to peel off and you can see the crappy gray underneath. A little nasty, but yeah, there's actually a couple little rust spots on doors and things like that. It's just small, tiny surface rust. Again, just a little annoying thing. There's another spot up here. And apparently the guy who owned it before me ran into some little stump or tree or something like that and made a pretty big gash in the fender arch here, and then banged this back quarter panel in pretty good. And in the back, with the skateboard, you've got little flip down seats on both sides actually. Nice little cargo net. Haven't really put anything in it aside from like an Eno. It's really funny, like it actually has a really nice deep gruff bellow. It kind of sounds like a V8. And I'll go ahead and give you guys a little bit of intake noise. she's definitely moving some air a little bit, but by the way, guys, this is the heaviest hood in the history of the world. I swear it weighs like half of what I do. But yeah, guys, just a couple other last little funny, dumb things with the truck. She hasn't had the best reliability electronic-wise. For instance, not that anyone ever uses them anymore, but the 6 CD changer actually doesn't even accept CDs into it anymore. Every time I've tried to put the CD in or eject anything that has been in there, it just doesn't do anything. And it gives you some sort of alert or whatever. Here, I'll show you. And then another thing is actually up until last week, the passenger window would not go up or down. It struggled to go up, but then randomly this week I tried it, just, you know, messing around, and it worked, surprisingly. So it handles decent. It's really simple. It's reliable. I've had mine for about 40,000 miles or so now over the course of 4 years. But at the same time, you do have that bigger ride height that's really confidence inspiring. And at the same time, I mean, obviously if you hit stuff, it hasn't really made that big of a difference. Yeah, it chipped a little bit of paint off. Yeah, there's some spiderweb cracking, but honestly, that's a really small price to pay for safety, you know? And honestly, if you just want a truck just to have a truck, if you want something that's gonna get great fuel economy for a truck, then honestly, this is the best place for you to look. I could not recommend a better first truck to anybody. And personally, I can't recommend a better truck at all. Sure, it could have more power, sure it could handle better, sure it could be better off-road, sure it could have all-wheel drive, but honestly, none of that stuff is really what you need. Yes, it's nice to have, but it's definitely not what you need. But yeah, guys, we're just about wrapped up here. Honestly, not sure how long this went, but if I'm completely honest, this was just as much for me as it was for anybody else out there on the internet, since I'm actually just about to sell this truck and getting something sportier, most likely a Cobalt SS or Mazda Speed 3, some little turbo 4-cylinder like that, just because I'm moving on to a different time in my life. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If anybody stayed through to the end, then good on you. Thanks for helping out the channel. If you want, feel free to like, subscribe, comment. There's definitely plenty of fast, fun car stuff coming up soon. And I guess we'll see how all that stuff ends up. But I mean, as for now, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side. See ya.